It's Chris and Lisa from Been There Got Out, and we are together again doing our Instagram Live. Chris gets the credit for finding this person. It's Sean Valentine, the family law coach. He's Canadian based, and we have like a ton of questions to ask him that I had numbered. I don't have numbered anymore. So, like, where is he? There he is.
You
All right.
too.
So Sean, I'm so glad, we we said ourselves, and I think people don't realize that we had this crazy coincidence with meeting you, where we've done a couple of Instagram lives as part of our series, The Client as Consumer. I wish I knew then what I know now, with David Morneau, who we knew for months, and then Chris was somehow found you, and then it turned out that you worked in the same exact office,
It's
which is,
it's such a yeah, it's so serendipitous.
Exactly the word I was thinking of.
I know, it's crazy. So, but you do something different. So let's start off by you telling us what you do and how it's similar
Absolutely.
to Choose Your Own Adventure. If any of you guys are 70s, 80s babies, those Choose Your Own Adventure books. But go ahead,
I,
Sean.
I used to pull those out of the library all the time when I was a kid too. I remember those
Mhm.
exactly. So what we do is we offer coaching services similar to what you guys do in the sense of helping people go through their separations, but we do it from a legal perspective. And how we do it and how we help different people is exactly that. It's a choose your own adventure of, do you need some help with drafting some documents? Do you need strategizing? Do you need to just have a conversation about what your ex was doing in court and how we can go in terms of procedurally to get to the next step? The idea is that we're giving people the empowerment who are self-represented, or in the US what we call pro se litigants, the power and the tools to help them through their separation in court.
Yeah, I know. And I love the Choose Your Own Adventure analogy. So, what kinds of services do you provide to clients specifically? So you are coming from a legal standpoint.
Absolutely. So everything is from a legal standpoint. All of our lawyers are family law trained lawyers. We right now are servicing just Ontario in Canada, but the whole idea is to provide limited scope or unbundled services. And again, what that really just means is that you're going to retain us to do a part of a process or a part of a task that might be, going to court, or filing documents that or your pleadings for the application, or even giving you legal advice on the separation agreement that another lawyer might have drafted on behalf of your spouse. So the whole idea is that a person can come and still feel that they are capable of doing everything that they need to, but have someone in their back pocket to give them the tools to feel that they're succeeding through the process and not being left alone in a very difficult and trying time in their lives.
Sean, can it work both ways? Whereas, like, you officially represent the person in court, but they do all the background work, or flip it around, you don't represent them, you do the background work and the filings, but they represent themselves pro se. Could it be either way? It's kind of like a la carte, right?
Absolutely. It usually comes down to the person that we're talking to and the services that they might need. We absolutely have represented clients in court when they've gone and drafted the materials and done it on their own. We like to be a little bit more hands-on though, and make sure that we understand the materials. And it's sometimes better for us to, from the beginning, to either assist or at least coach in getting the materials to how they should look and how they should be presented to a lawyer. But certainly it's the best opportunity here is that people can come and choose what they need. And really what we find is that a lot of the clients that we have are really intelligent. They're really well educated. They know what they're doing because unfortunately they've been in this system for years sometimes. And,
Yeah.
those people, they just need an extra help. They
eight,
just need
eight
a
years.
stepping stool to get in the right direction. And that's really what we're there for.
Yeah. So also, Sean, like, what if someone is brand new and they don't know what they need? Could they still come to you? Like, say someone recommends this, go talk to this guy, and they just show up like, I don't know what to do. Would that still be helpful?
Sorry, I missed that whole question. My
Oh,
headphones
it's
cut
okay.
out.
Yeah, it's okay because you got a little like pixelated too. So I was saying, what about, so you deal with a lot of the people that we do, two people who have been in the system for a while. They're really educated. They're what we call grizzled veterans, like me. So, but what about someone who is just starting the process and has no idea what they need? You could
That's
help them as well, right?
Absolutely. So what we do is we take in a client and we do what we call a strategy session, and that's from the very beginning where someone says, "Listen, I'm in the process, or I'm thinking about separating. I'm not entirely sure what my rights are, what process I should even do. Should I go to court? Should I try mediation? Should I do arbitration? Different things like that. People have no idea that there are so many opportunities, and not just that you have to go to court and you have to get a judge to give you an order, right? So the whole idea is that we sit down for an hour or 45 minutes, we have a conversation, we get some information, and then we design the process for them. We tell them what their legal rights are. Whether they decide to go with that, that's up to them, but we really want to give them, again, that knowledge so they can be empowered on where they should go after our session.
Yeah, I mean, because so many of us, even the most educated, think, I'm getting a divorce. I have to come up with at least $10,000 to retain an attorney. But this is totally different.
Yeah, and that's the best part about this, is there really aren't upfront retainers to that level. We're obviously, still asking for certain money for the services that we provide, but it really is, to go back to what you're saying, is an a-la-carte model. So you pay for what you need, and we design a budget that is going to make sure that it's an opportunity for the person to feel the value that they're getting out of that specific task. And it's not saying, okay, listen, you're going to drop $20,000 in a retainer, and we're just going to bill you out on a monthly basis, and you're just going to see an accounting invoice of all the emails that we sent or all the disclosure that we dealt with. It's the concept is really, again, to empower the person to feel like they're really involved in the process, because I know a lot of people feel like they're left in the dark when they have a traditional lawyer.
6 minutes at a time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
An hour.
Yeah, we just got a question that flew by that said something about how when you're dealing with a narcissist, it's really hard to stay out of court. What do you think about that?
So narcissists are very difficult to start off with, and the big thing that people have to remember is that you're likely not going to change them, and they're going to be like that, and you're going to have to find ways to become educated on how to deal with them. And that's usually it's a little bit of self-reflection and a little bit of understanding that no matter what I do, they're going to be like how they are. And so what you try to do is, you can still stay out of court. You just have to learn the techniques and the tools to avoid the high conflict, avoid that they're going to think that they're winning at all costs. But sometimes you just have to play nice in the sandbox, and you have to find ways to just say, you know what, yes, you won in this situation, but I know that I'm personally going to win in the long haul by trying to get everything done and not having roadblocks all the way. So I don't think you have to go to court with a narcissist, but you have to be aware of their personality and define and find strategies on how to approach them or their lawyer when you're going through your separation.
Yeah, I know with our clients, a lot of times we talk, and we're not going to get into it here, but we talk about the concept of leverage. Like, what do you have to keep yourself out of court, or to make sure the other person avoids court? All right, let's talk about the clean hands principle.
Absolutely. So I always preach to every one of my clients that they need to go to court with clean hands. And what that means is that you want to put your best foot forward, but you also want to make sure that you're not doing anything that a judge is going to look at as being a negative in the process. And so that, that could be surreptitious recordings, or recording people that under the table that the other person doesn't know that they're doing, or it means not giving the proper disclosure and just hiding some assets or different things like that. You always want to go to court and make sure that you put your best foot forward in terms of the arguments that you're putting, but also in terms of showing the kind of character you have. Because at the end of the day, when you go to trial, credibility is everything. And that's the judge is really going to look at that and say, so-and-so really did a good job at defining what they did, but they also were really upfront and transparent during this process. And those are the people that judges like to side with, opposed to the people who are, hiding their assets or doing things that are not appropriate under the rules, depending on the state or the province that you're in.
Sean, you totally reminded me of my own situation when I was in the midst of it. I had, my ex had left her journals in my house, and I found something in one of them that was really, really bad for her, and brought it up to the court referee. And the referee was like, how could you dare? And they're admissible in New York, where I am.
Yep.
But she just admonished me for being, how could you be so low as to read her journals?
Oh yeah. There was a really recent case in Ontario about recordings and being surreptitious and stuff. And the judge went on a rant for pages about how this is not appropriate and it shouldn't be done, and people need to be able to deal with this in good faith. And it's there's a fine line, and unfortunately sometimes your emotions just get the best of you. It's a difficult process, and everyone knows that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you noted that too, because I know during my divorce and so many of our clients post-separation and divorce too, they feel like the other side is getting away with so much. Why is my lawyer making me follow the rules? And mine did too. And I was like, but he's getting away, like they're playing dirty. Like, why do we have to listen to all this? We have to follow all this crazy discovery requests. And my lawyer just said, exactly what you said. You want to be the one who always looks good. You never want to give them any fodder to distract from the issue. So you just behave yourself. Don't worry about it. And he was right, because in the end, like, we did really well.
That's exactly it. I always say that you got to look at it the big picture, that even though you're frustrated now, I always have to feel that doing the right thing morally and, again, ethically is the right way to go. And at the end of the day, a judge is going to see that you did this properly, and they're going to take that into consideration.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
Okay. Right. So what would you consider, how would you describe the cost benefit analysis?
Absolutely. So what we always try to preach to clients on the family law coach side, and even in our traditional retainer clients, is that you can't get invested in something that's worth $5,000 if it's going to take you $20,000 to get there. It's one of those things that you have to keep an eye on your litigation costs, on your costs that are going to your lawyer, experts, different things like that. And when you are going to net a zero or go into the red afterwards, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so even though your emotions at play during a separation, and especially during litigation, you always have to have a practical mindset of, is this really going to be worth it? Because I can speak to you guys, I'm sure you know, you didn't get 100 cents on the dollar back in your court costs every time you won, right? And so, exactly. So even
still waiting to get paid.
Exactly. Even if you're still successful, you're not going to get it back. And it really, you have to have that mindset that you don't want to go and mortgage the farm just to prove a point. You have to think about this from a practical perspective, and really think about, okay, how much is this worth to invest versus what I'm actually going to get out of it in the long run.
Right. And there's all those other costs, like lost wages from you not being able to work, you know, the emotional cost on you and your family, the cost on your health, the time investment. So there's things that people don't always consider.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of that, what are some of the hardest obstacles with your clients?
The hardest obstacles are, I would definitely say, the emotion. When it comes to separation, people really get rooted in the why it happened versus, okay, this happened, now let's move forward with this and really try to, move forward into what I always like to call life 2.0. Let's try to transition from your first life and move it into there. And people kind of get stuck in the small minutia of the details, and they really don't think about, okay, is this really worth fighting over, the rake from the backyard that I want to keep instead of, just moving forward. That's definitely the hardest one. And then really, when it comes to when we're talking to our coaching clients or our pro se litigant clients, it's really when a partner has a lot of money and they're really just drowning them in disclosure requests or drowning them in court meetings and this and that, and they just feel like the weight of the world is underneath them or above them because they can't really go at this and they don't know the procedure to do it, and everything becomes very overwhelming. And those are kind of the two hardest things I see from my perspective.
The last time we talked, you mentioned something called a handshake referral. So what is that? Why is it better than just Googling, and how does that relate to your business?
Well, a handshake referral is more so just someone knows another person, right? So someone might be watching this live right now, and they're getting to know me and they're getting to know you guys, and we're both saying, we've met each other, we really like each other, we think they do incredible work. And I think that there's a testament to trust when you have somebody that that you can refer to somebody, versus just going on Google and typing in best lawyers in Mississippi or best lawyers in wherever you might be, because you don't have that bond already, or that established trust in that person because it has been validated from another person. Yeah,
we totally agree. And that's why we never recommend people to our clients without us kind of meeting them first and having a long conversation.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah,
important.
as a complete aside, it drives me crazy. Sometimes I'll be looking up some like technical legal term just to find out what it means. And I have to get through 3 pages of like ads for family law firms first.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's Google is smart when it comes to that stuff, but I do think that when you're either even from a coaching perspective, like what we do, or if you're just looking for your lawyer, it is all about fit, and you really need to sit down with that person and have a conversation. See if your philosophies align. See if the beliefs that you have are going to be in line with that person, and make sure that you have a candid conversation of the expectations on both parties, right? So those are the important things to do, because you are going to unfortunately be in this for some time. It could be 6 months, it could be 5, 10 years. And you really want to be with that person who you really feel that you trust, and have the full confidence that they're going to represent you properly.
Yeah, and I'm glad you noted that it's often at least 6 months and could go on for years, because we get people stumbling in saying, I just tell me what to do to finish. I just want to get it done. And we're like, we all do.
We ask them, where are you in the process? That's usually the first question we ask. We say beginning, middle, or done, like done and dealing with after stuff. And they'll say, oh, I'm in the middle of it. I filed last week. And we're like, you're not in the middle of it.
I know, we call those people our babies. We have the grizzled veterans on one side and the babies that we say, we're really sorry to say this, but you're actually at the very beginning of the process.
Yeah, and it's a tough situation like that. And our hope and our prayer when we have people is we try to have a lifespan of a file that's going to be shorter to benefit the individuals, and especially the children. The children are affected so much more as it continues and as it moves forward. And we recognize that child support is going to have to be reviewed every year, or certain things might have to be reviewed. That's fair, but you have to try to focus on, again, trying to minimize the damage that it will to have to the entire family, and the parent, the kids especially.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So now you just do family law, or do you do civil law, and also do you do appellate level or just trial?
So I come from more of a corporate civil background before I moved into family, and so that's why I think we take a much more cost benefit approach to everything to begin with. Is we're not here to try to make millions of dollars off people. The goal here is to really to help people, and to identify that you have to kind of place your emotions away a little bit, and it has to become a bit more of a business transaction at this point. But we do civil law, we do standard law between parties, and that's really our primary focus. Though is family. We love what we do, and we love helping people do it. But we also have such a broad network of people that we can refer out to for estates issues or real estate, or anything that might come up, because we've had such great connections with people who really love our services and really help out promote who we are. We can create a really great connection with a lot of other lawyers.
So you were talking a minute ago about not being in it to make millions of dollars. What are some of your tips that clients can use to keep their costs down when working with attorneys?
Yeah, this is the big find out now.
I can hear all the pens coming out right now.
For sure. There are a lot of them. I can think of a couple off the top of my head. The first one really is, don't cold call your lawyer. I'm a firm believer that you should set up an appointment with your lawyer by email or with their assistant or whoever, because when you cold call somebody, excuse me, they might not be ready for the call. They might not be prepared. They might not know what's going on. Or they might be very busy, and they have to stop something and get to you. And that can also lead a little bit of patience, to try to do that. So usually setting up a time to call your lawyer or to talk about something, unless it's urgent, right? Unless obviously if there's an urgent need, basis, then that's important to deal with. But taking that time, usually we find that surrounding yourself with the right support is also really important. Your lawyer, as much as we love the word counsel in it, we try not to be your counselor, and we want to try to avoid talking about a lot of different things that might not be in our area of expertise, right? So talk to you guys and talk about strategies and coaching, or get a social worker involved if there's some parenting issues that might be coming up, or different things like that. Though the cost will be a lot better pushed to the expert that can actually help the client, versus a lawyer sitting on the phone and billing at a high rate, listening to things that it's more just a venting session than anything else. And we want to help, but we also want to make sure that you keep your costs down like that too. And on top of that one, I think the last one that kind of dovetails from that too is if you can email your lawyer and get a simple answer, it's usually the fastest way to get a hold of somebody, and it's usually the most efficient way versus spending some time on the phone calls and stuff. Because like you said, Chris, we bill in 0.1s or 6 minute intervals, and an email is a lot faster than sitting on the phone for 20 minutes or half an hour. If you just have one quick answer, and then even on top of that, talk to the law clerks, talk to the people that are, or the paralegals that are below the lawyers sometimes, if it's an administrative issue or if it's something that can be just dealt with by someone who's a little bit less senior, or billing out at a lower hour, that can help you versus talking to your senior lawyer who's billing out at a much higher rate.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of that, you had said sometimes people call and a lawyer might not be prepared. Our clients find that many of them will say, my lawyer is not answering my calls, they're not being responsive. So how does a service like yours fill in? I mean, I know you're an attorney, but like, do you have other people other than would a paralegal call back or somebody else? Like, how do you handle like more bedside manner? I'll just say.
So the benefit of our services is number one, you're retaining us for a specific service or a specific purpose. And so whether it's a coaching session, you're going to be on the phone or on Zoom with me one-on-one, and we're going to talk throughout an entire hour, and we're going to come up with strategies. If it's going to be a situation where you need to get a hold of the admin staff, where we have people standing by all the time ready to take phone calls and entertain emails. We even have what we call our client concierge, who ends up actually calling back clients and making sure they're doing okay, and making sure that things are
Never heard of that.
And
client concierge.
And
Wow.
the whole idea again is it's not about checking in for more services. It's just to make sure that the client is okay and the client is doing well. And if they aren't doing well, how can we help them in that next step? Because what we always keep talking about is that they're deciding, the client, how they want to use us. It's not like we're in a traditional retainer. Lawyers who are in traditional retainers have a lot of volume, have hundreds of files sometimes, and they really have to take the time to. Sometimes they'll be in a trial for 2 weeks and they just can't get a hold of you, and you can't get a hold of them. And so we're available because the services are much more limited in nature, that the opportunity to have a conversation back and forth is there.
So, Lisa and I are high conflict divorce coaches, but just more generally, how can divorce coaches kind of fill in the gaps? Like, we know what it looks like from our side, but from a lawyer's perspective, what's the benefit for you and your client relationship of your client working with a coach?
Like, what's your favorite kind of client?
The kind that works with a divorce coach, right?
No,
plug.
My favorite kinds of clients are ones who have done their research and their homework, but are also flexible, right? So they understand what they're doing and how they have to get there, but they're willing to listen to a trained professional's advice as well. The harder ones are the ones that are stubborn, who say, I've done this for 7 years and I know what I'm doing, and thank you for your advice, and move forward. But the real benefit to our job is to take a look at the incredible work that a pro se litigant has done, or a self-represented litigant has done, but offer real content and real information that's going to better their chances in court, or better their chances at getting a better negotiated settlement agreement or separation agreement, or again, or a better structure for a parenting plan, because they didn't think about a small thing like life insurance, or they didn't think about a small thing like, when we're going to review child support, is it going to be in June, or they're self-employed, maybe we should push it a little bit later. There's those small little things that are actually that we've seen over and over again, we recommend, because we want to reduce the conflict that's going to happen down the road.
A lot of times Lisa and I'll get off a discovery call. We do them on Zoom, and the first thing we'll say is, can we or can't we help that person? And the second thing we'll say is, are they coachable? It's just like what you said.
Yeah.
We can definitely help that person, but they're not coachable, and we don't want to work with them.
Yeah, like they're not listening.
Yeah.
They just on and on.
Because we probably like you, we want our clients to be successful.
Yeah. Well, that's the key, right? We do this because we really want to see these people successful and happy and moving forward, and not stuck in that same rut that they feel like they've been in the mud for years upon years. And so there's a real added benefit, but you're right. The person who comes into our office or Zoom has to be willing to take the advice that we're going to give them.
Right, right. And so the words that we always think of is like that you want a client who already has strategic oversight of their case. Like with our people, we say this is what we want to teach you, like you're in charge and you're hiring experts to help you get where you need to go. So you do, you should listen, but it's still you're the boss. Like you shouldn't feel like completely steamrolled by everyone else.
Absolutely.
It's your life. You're the one who has to live with the consequences. So eventually you have to make the decision based on the best advice that you've gotten from your people.
For sure. And I mean, even as a lawyer, our jobs are only to make recommendations and really we always say whether it's a coaching client or just a family law client, you're the ultimate decision maker. This is your life. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do my own thing. You have to be in this and you have to feel comfortable with this decision. So we have to empower you to make those decisions. And that's where the coaching on both sides from you and yourselves and myself are really important, because we're giving them those tools and that understanding of, okay, how do we make that decision to empower myself to be in the best case? And you're right, managing the strategy and thinking about the logistics of how they're going to do that is priority number one.
Yeah. Okay, now this is a little bit off to the side before we get back, but everyone wants to talk about coercive control, and now you're Canadian. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also, because I'm thinking of when we trained our lawyers in Barbados, a lot of the lawyers were unfamiliar with coercive control, but specifically in the type of client that would show up and how they might have to be treated a bit differently. So can you talk a little bit about coercive control as it applies to anything related to you guys?
For sure. So the one thing that I would say that's been really great in the Canadian laws lately was in March of last year, they added into the Divorce Act, and it was mimicked in the provincial statutes in Ontario as well, recognizing domestic violence as being a factor that we really have to take into consideration when we're dealing with a civil matter, with a family law matter like this. And domestic violence is obviously the broad term, and coercive control kind of fits into that, because you have your physical and you have your emotional, but sometimes you don't really recognize the types of other abuse that can happen in a relationship, especially like the coercive control, whether it's gaslighting or whether it's financial abuse or financial control, or not permitting your spouse to see their support networks or different things like that. There's a lot of alienation there, and you don't trigger it in the back of your head as being some type of abuse until you actually have a discussion about it, and you realize that this is something that is it's relevant and it's prevalent in society, in certain types of relationships. And so the good thing that we've started to do is that obviously if you want to become a mediator in Ontario, or if you want to become an arbitrator, you actually have to you have to go through a domestic violence course, and you actually have to become much more aware of the situations that are present in different dynamics and different relationships. And especially if a client's going to go to mediation, there's always a screening before we permit someone to go into a mediation, to see if there's any power imbalances, to see if there's any types of abuse. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we have anything like that in America.
Yeah, it's part of the intake process that we have to screen to make sure that there are if there are any issues of domestic violence or power imbalances. That doesn't necessarily mean that the two parties can't mediate or can't do things like that, but there has to be mechanisms put in place to make sure that the person who is facing those types of issues is protected. And then that's priority number one, is to make sure that that person's protected during it. And so I really do think that we have made great strides to recognize the issues that are not just, again, physical on the surface or defined in the emotional categories, but we still have work to go, and we still have to move forward with that and make sure that we recognize that there are so many different conflicts in relationships that don't necessarily come out till afterwards, that have to be recognized, and we have to determine how those are going to play when we have a negotiation. And I'm sure you guys talk about that too, that this is part of the strategy.
Right. And it makes me think about how it's not even just dealing with the case itself, but the ripple effects and later on, like how the decisions are going to affect the children in the future. What it's going to be like for this couple once they split and move on. So I am so impressed by you and your services, and especially the fact that you screen for for coercive control before putting clients in a legal setting. I mean, that's like a real
That's
model,
incredible.
but yeah.
I don't know if you saw
amazing.
little hearts floating by.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but I'm thinking like, so you're, obviously no Americans can use you because you're Canadian based, but do you know anything about in America? Is there like a directory of organizations like yours? Like how can people like us, how can we refer clients to services just like yours who aren't exactly in Canada where you're located?
So the best thing about what we do is it's not necessarily out of the box that no one else can offer it. It's every lawyer can make a decision to give limited scope services and can give unbundled services. The coaching side of things is a little bit more unique because again, the goal here is to empower people. What I would recommend to people who are in different states is the AFCC, which is the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. They're pretty big as it comes to as being a kind of a soundboard in all of North America that talks about a lot of family law issues, a lot of different things like that, unbundled services. There's chapters in pretty much every state and every province, so they could be a really important link to go check out. We always talk about, you could go talk to your local bar administration and talk to them and see if there's services provided by certain lawyers that might say, okay, yes, I totally offer unbundled services for family law or different things like that. The easiest way to do it is walk to the courthouse and talk to a couple of lawyers and see maybe that there's some local lawyers who are willing to help out on a limited scope basis and have a discussion with them. Those are kind of the two terminologies that people need to know, is asking lawyers, would they offer limited scope services, or again, what we call unbundled services, which are just mean the limited scope is defining, okay, I'm going to represent you in this one motion and that's all I'm doing. The unbundled services is a little bit different. It's, we can kind of pick and choose what we want to do together. And again, that's a bit more the choose your own adventure part of it.
Oh, so I had thought of those two terms as synonymous, and it sounds like they're not. Right? Limited scope means like a particular matter. Unbundled services is like a particular
The
service.
a-la-carte.
Yeah.
The limited scope retainer is what you're going to sign, right? You're going to say, I'm going to help you with X, Y, and Z. The unbundled services is more the concept, the theory behind it, that it could be one piece of, of the puzzle, or it could be multiple parts of it. And it's just saying that we're not going to give it to you all wrapped up in one nice package. You're going to be selecting different things from your basket on Amazon, and then they're going to be coming to you at different times.
I'm so excited. All right. So once again, Sean, can you just tell people how they can find you if they're in your area, and who can use you again?
Absolutely. So we're located in Ontario, Canada. We have people servicing all over that province. We have, again, connections with other people in different provinces, and we don't have so much of a reach into the States yet, but that's our hopeful goal, to do that. Our website is thefamilylawcoach.com. Our Instagram handle is the FL Coach. We are on Twitter at the Family Law Coach as well. And then really the whole goal is to help people who are going through their separations, whether it's in court being self-represented, or they just need a lawyer to talk to about a separation agreement, or reviewing child support numbers, or even doing financial forecasting, seeing if I can afford the house that is now going to be this massive asset that has to be divided. Can I carry the costs on that? We have financial people that will help out and do those calculations for you as well. The whole idea is to try to be a one-stop shop to help out people through a very difficult time in their life, and make sure that they are, again, empowered through this process and not necessarily have to go at it alone.
All right, great. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm excited to put the recording up because I know a lot of people can't come at the moment, but they're going to be watching it later.
And we'll be sure to get all those links in there and your Twitter handle and all that stuff. So this was really great, Sean. I'm so glad we came across each other, and I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, and tell David we said hi too.
Absolutely. I'll be on whenever you guys want. Don't you worry.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, guys.
Okay. Bye.